On Monday, June 23rd, Steffi Forrester glanced at the polished mahogany desk before her, the final prototypes for the new fragrance collection arrayed like glass soldiers awaiting her command, and made the decision that would set in motion a chain of events no one could have foreseen. She would summon Daphne Rose back to the Forrester Creations atelier, despite whispered warnings in the hallways. Cautionary murmurs from accountants who feared reopening old rivalries, from PR strategists who predicted a media maelstrom, and from Hope Logan herself, whose gentle protest fell on Steffi's determined ears. Steffi believed the only way to breathe life into the stagnating perfume line was to reclaim the muse who had first ignited its fame. Daphne, with her ethereal presence and uncanny flair for capturing the palate of a scent in a single evocative droplet, had once elevated Forrester fragrances to dizzying heights. Without her vision, sales had plateaued and the brand's mystique had begun to wane under the glare of newer, flashier labels. Now, with the fashion world abuzz at Paris Fashion Week and rival houses encroaching on every corner of Los Angeles, Steffi refused to cede ground. She would bring Daphne home. She placed the phone call late one evening, her tone firm and unapologetic. "Daphne, I need you. For Forrester, for me, for the legacy we share. Return to Los Angeles and help me craft the scent that will define our next decade." Across the Atlantic, Daphne sat at a rain-spattered cafe window in Paris, her latte cooling on the table beside sketches of sandalwood and jasmine, her mind flickering with memories of the rivalry she had once shared with Hope Logan. Memories of the night Hope had accused her of stealing Carter Walton's affections, of the whispered insults and the professional jabs that nearly ended both of their careers when their feud had erupted into open warfare on the runway. Now, halfway across the world from the man she had once loved and the woman she had once bested, Daphne felt the old embers of pride and vengeance stir in her chest. She accepted Steffi's offer with a measured, of course, her voice smooth as silk, but her heart hammered with the knowledge that returning would plunge her back into the emotional battleground she had long sought to escape. When the announcement hit the press, Steffi Forrester resurrects fragrance line with Daphne Rose as lead perfumer, the industry exploded. Fashion blogs tweeted images of Daphne's slender silhouette stepping off the private jet at LAX. Gossip columns predicted a revival of the roses and rain notes for which she was famous, and Hope Logan, standing beside Carter Walton in her bridal boutique, felt a cold dread pool in her stomach. She had dreamed of this moment for months, her wedding day to Carter, the culmination of every tender promise they had whispered under starlight, the joy she had seen shining in his eyes, but now the specter of Daphne loomed large, threatening to rattle every plank of her carefully built sanctuary. When Hope confronted Steffi in the private corridors of the Forrester estate, her voice quivered between plea and anger. "Steffi, you know what she did. You know she nearly stole Carter from me once. And now you call her back to spark up the very line that celebrates love and trust? How could you be so blind?" Steffi's gaze was unflinching, her posture resolute. "Hope, I understand your fears, but this isn't personal. This is business." Daphne is unmatched at translating emotion into scent. If we want Forrester Creations to lead the market again, she's the one who can do it. At those words, Hope's face fell. She knew Steffi's instincts for business were as sharp as her instincts for family were fierce, and she realized that no argument of sentiment could sway her sister-in-law. With a trembling breath, she nodded, her mind racing for a way to protect her future without undermining the company she cherished. Meanwhile, Carter, ever the peacemaker, sought to calm Hope's storm of doubts. He took her hand in his eyes luminous with the promise of their upcoming nuptials. "Hope, our wedding will be ours, no matter who fragrance designer they hire. You have my heart, not Daphne." But Hope, who had studied Carter's every glance for signs of lingering passion for the perfumer, could not shake the image of Daphne's lean figure drifting through Steffi's marble halls, of the intoxicating scent she would surely unveil in the days leading to the wedding. What if Daphne's new perfume became the talk of the town on the very day Hope walked down the aisle? What if the world's attention turned away from her vows and toward the woman who once nearly destroyed her happiness? As Daphne arrived at the Forrester compound, her entrance was marked by a burst of floral aromas drifting through the foyer as she paused to inhale the sterile scent of wealth and power. Steffi greeted her with a precise, professional hug, her eyes flickering with both relief and anticipation. "Welcome home, Daphne," she said. "I can't wait to show you the raw chords we've been working with." Daphne smiled, a curve of confidence that masked the complex web of motives beneath her calm exterior. "I've missed this," she replied, her voice low and reflective. As they toured the fragrance lab, where steel vats and glass pipettes awaited her delicate touch, Daphne's mind wandered to the manuscripts of her past with Carter, the nights they had shared dreams of sailing across the Mediterranean. The day she had watched him kneel to propose and then been blinded by his apology for a misunderstanding, her bruised pride turning away even as she ached with longing. She set her jaw and threw herself into the creative process, determined to prove that her talent was beyond doubt, that her presence was strictly professional, and that old passions would not sway her hand. But as the days ticked toward Hope and Carter's wedding, scheduled for a grand ceremony on the oceanfront terrace overlooking Santa Monica Bay, rumors began to stir backstage. Designers whispered that Daphne had discovered something in the chemistry of the new scents that reminded her of Hope's own birthmark, an accidental likeness that made the fragrance feel almost personal. Others claimed she had confided in a friend that she intended to gift Carter with a special edition bottle on the eve of the wedding, a gesture framed as goodwill but laced with the possibility of reigniting old flames. Hope, learning of these whispers, felt her anxiety spike. She confronted Carter in private, her voice barely above a whisper even as tears threatened to spill. "Carter, you must promise me you won't entertain any notion that she could ever replace me." Carter brushed her hair back, his expression gentle but firm. "Hope, I swear to you I am yours. Daphne's scent won't change that." Yet as the wedding day dawned, the Forrester terrace shimmered under a canopy of twinkling lights and cascading orchids, and the assembled guests murmured at the ethereal fragrance drifting through the air, a new scent that Daphne had unveiled to rave reviews. It was at that moment, as Hope descended the aisle in a gown of ivory silk, her heart pounding in time with the soft strains of the string quartet, that she noticed Carter pause. His gaze drifting from her face to the first guests seating themselves, and then to the glimmer of the perfume bottle displayed on a pedestal beside the dais. His brow furrowed, his lips parted as though he recognized something in the air. Hope's breath hitched. Was he recalling Daphne? Would he abandon her at the altar? Suddenly, a hush fell as Daphne herself stepped forward, microphone in hand, her voice carrying across the terrace. "Before we begin," she said, and Hope's pulse skipped, "I'd like to apologize to Hope and Carter for any confusion my work may have caused. But I also need to tell you something I discovered, something that only the bride and groom should know." The guests leaned forward in unison, the tension thick enough to taste. Hope's palms grew sweaty as Carter reached for her hand, his reassurance faltering as he met Daphne's eyes. Steffi, standing beside the officiant, winced. Ridge, at the front row, bristled. And as Daphne drew a small envelope from her clutch, Hope felt the ground slip beneath her feet. In her hand lay a letter that revealed a secret liaison between Carter Walton and Daphne Rose in Paris. An encounter born of grief and shared loneliness, sealed with a kiss that had been photographed by a paparazzo. The letter, penned by Daphne herself as a confession, had never been sent. Now, in the glare of floodlights and the stunned silence of the crowd, Hope realized that her worst fear had been realized. Daphne held in her hands the power to unravel the vows she had come to speak, to expose the echo of passion that still lingered between her fiancé and her former rival, and to shatter the dream of love that had carried her through months of planning. Heart-pounding, she stared at Carter, whose face had drained of color, and at Daphne, whose eyes glistened with both sorrow and resolve. In that electrifying moment, the wedding poised on the knife edge between union and ruin, and every member of the Forrester clan knew that no matter how fragrant the future might smell, the bitter aftertaste of betrayal and ambition would linger far longer than any perfume ever could. The bold and the beautiful plunges into a labyrinth of hidden motives, shattered loyalties, and desperate bids for truth as Nick Marone, fresh off his triumphant return to Los Angeles, launches a crusade to open Brooke Logan's eyes to the reality she has willfully ignored for far too long, her lingering attachment to an ex whose shadow still haunts every corner of her heart. As the Forrester family estate glares under the glare of paparazzi flashes and the endless churn of social media rumors, Nick strides through those halls with a mission: to ignite in Brooke a recognition that Ridge Forrester's jealousy was never mere possessiveness, but the unvarnished proof that her heart still hungrily yearns for the man she once promised forever. He knows her silence, her polite nods, and the soft, conflicted glances she casts at Polaroids of Ridge, and her laughter at private jokes they once shared, are not the closure she tells herself she's found. With every confident step he takes toward her office at Forrester Creations, his resolve hardens. He will expose the fault lines in Brooke's carefully rebuilt life and show her that the fate she has been running from is the one that beckons most urgently. Her destiny with Ridge, the man who, despite every betrayal and every second thought, remains the one true constant in her world. Meanwhile, beyond the marble pillars and the echo of clicking stilettos, Luna Nozawa quietly unfurls her next move in a cold, meticulously calculated chess match designed to topple Steffy Forrester from her throne of grace and empathy, and she will stop at nothing to see her revenge carried through. Rumors in the art circles, whispered over linen canvases and the scent of oil paints, confirm that Luna has reconnected with Hayes Finnegan's art teacher under the pretense of commissioning a portrait project, an arrangement so innocent-sounding that no one suspects the darkness it conceals. Yet beneath the polite exchanges and the careful brushstrokes, Luna lays the groundwork for schemes that could rip Hayes away from the safe cocoon of Ridge and Steffy's protection. An abduction masked as an art retreat, a cruel ruse that would leave the boy adrift, torn between the comfort of the Forrester name and the betrayal of a mother who claims to fight for his rightful heritage. With every contact she makes in the Finnegan circle, Hannah's cautious, "Yes, Ms. Nozawa, the project is on track," masks her unease, and each forwarded email from the teacher becomes yet another thread weaving Luna's web of vengeance. All the while, Hope Logan watches from the shadows of her own anxieties, her world upended once again by news that Daphne Rose is poised for a dazzling comeback, handpicked by her half-sister Steffy to launch a brand new fragrance designed to resurrect the golden age of Forrester glamour. But Hope, who last watched Daphne flutter through a garden party with her characteristic elegance, now recoils at the thought of past flirtations rekindled like embers in the wind. She still bears the fresh sting of witnessing Paris kiss Carter Walton, a betrayal that scarred her trust, and now, engaged in what should be a sanctuary of love and commitment, she finds herself bracing for the unwelcome advances of the one woman who once vied so ruthlessly for the heart of her fiancé. With her engagement ring glinting like a fragile promise on her slender finger, Hope's smile at press conferences, and her gracious acceptance of congratulatory bouquets conceal a burgeoning dread that Daphne's return will shatter the bond she has fought so hard to secure, reigniting old rivalries and threatening to unravel the future she has so carefully stitched together. As all these hidden wars of the heart and of corporate empire converge beneath the sprawling ceilings of the Forrester estate, Taylor Hayes sits alone on the plush chaise in the drawing room, her mind replaying, in excruciating slow motion, the words Brooke Logan had delivered like a dagger in her most recent confrontation, words that exposed Ridge's unguarded jealousy when he discovered Taylor and Nick locked in a moment that suggested more than mere friendship. In that private parley, Brooke had made it clear that Ridge's reaction was not born of petty pique but of the fierce protectiveness of a man who still harbored feelings he refuses to confess. Taylor, whose resilience has been tested at every turn by betrayal and by her own shifting allegiances, now faces a crossroad so profound that its ramifications could either cement her place at Ridge's side or destroy the fragile trust she hopes to rebuild. And so, propelled by a blend of bravado and desperation, Taylor decides that the only way to seize control of her own fate is to seize Ridge's hand in marriage before the truth of her involvement with Nick, or the resurgence of Brooke's connection to Ridge, can wrest him back. She envisions kneeling before him under a canopy of twinkling lights in the rose garden, her voice steady as she utters the two words she has rehearsed until her pulse thrums in her ears, "Marry me." But Taylor's heart pounds with questions. Will Ridge see her proposal as the bold declaration of love she intends, or as the latest in a series of manipulations that have frayed the bonds of family and trust? And while Taylor steels herself for his answer, Nick's return to Los Angeles crescendos into a gambit that could either unite him with Brooke once and for all or drive them irrevocably apart. He has watched her from afar. The way her laughter tumbles like crystal, the ache in her eyes when she thinks no one is looking, and he knows that beneath her composed exterior lies a yearning for what was, for the man who defined her very existence. At a private luncheon arranged under the pretext of discussing the final designs for the new capsule collection, a collaboration he has brokered to demonstrate his partnership and his vision, Nick plans to unveil evidence that Ridge's so-called hesitation around Taylor and Brooke's relationship masked a deeper truth, that Ridge's loyalty to Brooke has never wavered, that his heart beats in time with hers, and that the ex they all speak of in hushed tones is the one who should be reignited. With steely determination, he intends to present Brooke with tangential details. Photographs of Ridge lingering outside her bedroom window after midnight, text messages left unsent in the drafts folder, the faint scent of her favorite perfume clinging to his collar. Proof that her denial of Ridge's enduring love is the only thing standing between them. He will urge her to abandon this false path toward Taylor's wedding proposal and to confront her own truth, to acknowledge that her fate and Ridge's are irrevocably entwined. And yet, as he steels himself to speak the words that could either heal or further wound the Logan Forrester legacy, Nick cannot ignore the residual tension that twists in Brooke's throat when she hears the name Ridge, one syllable too many, nor the ghost of Ridge's jealousy that lingers in her pained expressions. Will Nick's carefully laid plans finally shatter Brooke's illusions and reunite the pair destined by history and by the beating of their hearts, or will the entangled web of past betrayals, new alliances, and the thunder of approaching storms leave them both stranded on opposite shores of regret? In a world where love is both a weapon and a sanctuary, where every secret betrayed becomes the crucible in which loyalties are reforged, Monday's episode promises to deliver an unrelenting surge of drama that will ripple through the lives of these titans of fashion and family, leaving none untouched and all irrevocably changed.